In previous lecture, we have seen what are programming language paradigms. There are mainly two paradigms, imperative and declarative. Imperative focuses on how program executes. If it executes sequentially, we call it as procedural paradigm. If it is object oriented or object based, we call it as object based paradigm or object oriented paradigm. Then third one is parallel processing or concurrent programming. In declarative programming language paradigm, it focuses on what is the problem. That is logical programming, functional and database. Then we have started with object-oriented programming. We have seen what is the need of object-oriented programming and how it is different than procedural programming. So procedural programming focuses on the processes or procedures or functions. For example, here we have taken the example of banking application. There are the functions involved like withdraw, deposit, transfer. So if these functions are defined and the users, you have to call these functions to carry out the operation. But if the mode of operation changes, for example, now we are using different modes of operation. Instead of going in a bank and depositing our money or withdrawing our money, we are using UPI like Google Pay, Phone Pay to purchase something or to transfer amount, etc. So in that case, the functions need to change every time you change the mode of conduct. But this is not the case of object oriented language, because these functions are inbuilt in the object. Here objects are important. Objects are like customer, money, account. So we'll come to that, what is an object and how it is different from function or procedural programming. Then we have seen what is the difference between procedure uh, programming, that is POP, procedure oriented programming, and then object oriented programming. So let's start with what is object oriented programming paradigm is. So object oriented programming is based on objects. And what is an object? Object has both data as well as functions operating on that object. So main aim of object oriented programming is modularity and reusability. Modularity means a big problem you can divide into different modules and they can be programmed, executed parallelly. And reusability means once object is ready, it is already created, you can directly use that object for another application. It is not compulsory that once object is created, it is used for this application, it cannot be used for another application. So if I create object of class student, so I'm using that object student for result generation, I'm using student from attendance records or any other functions. General characteristics of object oriented programming. Slides are visible.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
General characteristics of object oriented programming is it is bottom up approach. Means you start from basic objects, you have to identify objects from your problem statement, then you have to identify relationship between these objects. So you need to build the building starting from the base. That is called bottom up approach. So object is encapsulation of state, that is data value, and behavior, that is operations. So in the object, data and the operations which we want to perform on that data are encapsulated together. Encapsulated means clubbed together as a one entity. So program organized around the objects and grouped in a classes. So group of objects is called a class. Group of similar type of object is called a class. So what is an object? Object is called instance of a class. Like when you define a variable, how you define a variable in C language? Int x, comma y, comma z, right? So x is instance or x is of type integer. Y is also type integer. C is also type integer. So x, y, z, you can say these are the variables of type integer. Similarly, when you create a class, say student, and you create objects like say Karuna and Janvi and Mrunal. So these are the objects of class student. So these are the instances of class. And class is nothing but user defined data type. So focus on data with methods to operate upon objects data. It provides interaction between objects through functions. So more than two objects, we can communicate or we can set a relationship between these objects with the help of functions. Reusability means again we have to use previously created classes or objects of design through creation of new classes by adding features to existing classes, which is called inheritance in object oriented programming world. So if I create a class, say calculator, which calculates, which is a basic calculator, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, then I want to enhance it to support scientific calculations. Like I want it, just a minute, girls, I'll just come. So we are talking about reusability. So if I have a basic calculator like calculating addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, that calculator class or I can enhance to support scientific calculator by adding new functions like factorial, then square root, sine, cos, tan, etc. So if you have basic structure with you or previous classes, you can add its functionality, you can modify it, you can update it with new functions. That concept is called inheritance in Java. Few more benefits are like code reuse. You can reuse the existing code, recycle it. Then design benefits because it supports modular programming. You can divide a large project into small projects, and if each team can work on building some hierarchy or different classes, and then you can club it and create the actual projects. Ease of software maintenance and fabrication. So meaning is same, fabrication or modularity. And once the task is divided, again, you didn't have to check the or debug the complete program or complete project at a time. You have to just divide, you already have divided it into different modules. So you have to test it, debug that particular module and make it error free, workable. And that workable module can be added into the actual project. So maintenance is also easy because you are not maintaining the complete project. You have to maintain just small modules. So it also supports a ease of comprehension. Comprehension again means providing in brief. You are not displaying everything to the user, or it is available in abstract manner. A redesign extension is possible. It is simple. Simplicity is there. Again, wait a minute, girls. You won't understand these keywords right now. It is abstraction and encapsulation. Meaning of abstraction is conveying in brief or hiding the details. Like whenever you use any electronic gadget, it comes with a manual, and we never see that manual how to use it. That manual is nothing but the description, and what we see is the abstraction. For example, we use a remote, TV remote, but we didn't know how it works. When we press the keys, how it changes the channel, how it changes the sound volume of a sound, etc. So we just know this press this button to increase volume or decrease volume or change the channel, but we didn't know working behind it. That working is hidden from the user because it is not necessary for me to understand how it works. It is necessary for me just to know that what will be the output of this. So whatever the things must be known to the particular user, only provide those things, that is conveying in brief, just show limited part and hide all the details, programming details behind. So that is abstraction. And encapsulation means clubbing data and functions together as an entity. Then access specifiers. In a previous lecture also we discussed about this access specifier. Procedural programming doesn't have access specifiers, but object oriented programming have access specifiers like public, private and protected. This is used for hiding the data. The on Facebook or on any social media, you make your settings visible to only me or with my friends or with my friends friends, or which is public. In a similar manner, you can decide who can use this class. Any class within your package or any class outside a package which is a child of that particular class, or it is available publicly. So these are the access specifiers, means who can access that data or functions of that particular class, and provide data hiding and ensure security. This is very important benefit of object oriented programming. It is very secured programming language. Data is secured than procedural programming with the help of data hiding techniques. So we are going to explore these features of object oriented programming. I think it is visible. We'll start with object, then class, then we'll see what is polymorphism, abstraction, inheritance, encapsulation. Then there are some advanced concepts like interface, abstract class, access modifiers, etc. So we're going to learn all these concepts as a features of object oriented programming, as well as how it is implemented in Java in the next unit. So let's start with an object. So this is, what is this? A bicycle. I want to create a class of bicycle. So we have to identify components and behavior. So every object should have three things. One thing, first thing is identity, then attributes, and then behavior. So attributes are nothing but the data, and behavior is nothing but a function. So what are the attributes for a bicycle? If you want to purchase a bicycle, so what you will see, what it should have, a bicycle. I want answers from your side, girls. So what are the nouns, like components of a bicycle?
Brakes.
Gears.
Brake, gears, correct.
Tires. Seat. Tires.
Mhm. Seat, tires, then
Handle.
type, color, type,
Handle.
pedal, then company. Okay, so these are all components, bike components, and you can call it, you can make it as a variables for that particular class bicycle. And what it does actually, what is the behavior of a cycle? If you are a user, how you are going to use that cycle? What cycle can do? Functions of a cycle or its behavior.
Help us travel.
Yeah, it means how much distance it travel distance. Then you apply brakes to stop. You can change a gear, right? So this is called behavior of a bicycle. So you can define a class bicycle. We can define properties which are called attributes, like gear, pedal, speed, color, price, company, etc. And object methods are applying brakes, changing gear, changing tires, oiling, etc. So similar to this, can you find out objects near you? Suppose I have a pen. In my hand, I have a pen. So for a pen, what will be the properties, object properties or attributes?
Refill.
Ink.
Huh, color of a ink, whether
Color.
it's red, blue, black, etc. Then
Company name.
company name, type, whether it is ball pen, gel pen or ink pen.
Price.
Price. So these are all attributes. And what is a behavior of a pen? What pen should do, or what we can do with that pen?
Writing.
To write.
You can write, you can change its refill, or you can fill in the ink. Suppose fan, ceiling fan. I want to create a class ceiling fan. So what are the attributes for ceiling fan?
Blades.
Number of blades. Then
Speed.
yes, speed.
Speed. Speed. Company.
Company, again company, price, color, model, size. And behavior of a fan: start, stop, change its speed, right? So similarly, you try to look at every object near you and try to find out what are the attributes and what is a behavior. That means attributes will become the variables and behavior will become the method for that particular object. So now let's define what is an object. Objects are fundamental building blocks of an application from an object-oriented perspective. So first thing what you have to do from a problem statement is you have to identify objects. It represents real world entity like pen, bicycle, fan, etc. Object is self-contained component that contains properties and methods needed to make a certain type of data useful. So object's properties are what it knows and its methods are what it can do. Are you getting? Properties means what it knows and the method or behavior means what it can do. So what about table? So if I want to create object of a table, so what are the properties for table or attributes of a table?
Height.
Material.
Yes, material, whether it is wooden, glass or plastic. Then it's
Design.
height, whether it is my study table or kitchen table, dining table, etc. Price, then color, all those things will be there. And what is a behavior? What table can do? What you can do with that table? You can
Keep the heavy things.
you can use it for whatever the purpose you want. If it is a study table, you can keep your books or a laptop, or if it is a dining table, you can have a lunch there, or you can shift that table from one place to other place. That is also a function or behavior of a table. Suppose bike is an object. So what will be the attributes of bike?
Color, speed,
Mechanism.
tire quality.
Mileage.
My
Model.
engine. Gear, engine. Brakes.
Very good, very good. You have find out much more behavior or attributes. Now, can you define what are the methods with the bike? What bike can do?
Travel one place from another. Acceleration, brake.
Yes, similar to cycle, it can change the speed, apply brakes, then refill or add a petrol or move from one place to other place like this. Now, what is this object? Can you identify this object?
Keyboard. Keyboard.
Yes, it's a keyboard. So, what are the attributes of keyboard?
Buttons. Ease.
Yes, and functions of each keys can be a attribute behavior. So I hope you understood what is an object. Again, you can go through these definitions. It is called real world entity. It is called instance of a class. Object is called instance of a class or a real world entity. So object is an entity that keeps together state and behavior. So state and behavior goes hand in hand. You have to define its attributes as well as methods. So what is a behavior? Behavior means method. Behavior of a component is the set of actions it can perform. Like bike can change gear or bike can apply brakes. So that actions it can perform. The complete description of all behaviors of a component is sometimes called a protocol. Protocol means rules. So what that object should do. So all those actions are called rules, in which it includes all activities. So what is a state? State of a component represents all information held within or attributes or properties. It is worth noting that the state is not static and it can change over time. That's why it is also called dynamic. State is described by instance variables. Note down this term. Instance variables. As object is instance of a class and variables that defines the objects are called instance variables. And whereas the behavior is characterized by methods. Methods means functions, in which provide the appropriate behavior through modification of a state as well as by interacting with other objects. So these two terms, behavior is nothing but method and state is nothing but instance variable. So if you take the example, one more example is here. So doggy. So how to define a doggy? What can be this name? State, its name, then color, breed, whether he or she is hungry or not. And behavior can be barking, fetching, wagging tail, etc. If you take object as a car, so for car, how you define a state? Its color, speed, capacity, how many two-seater car or four-seater car or seven-seater car. So that is capacity. And behavior is you can accelerate it, you can apply brakes. So object is clear. Have you understood what is an object? Object is real world entity that you can see around you. And object should have state and behavior. That means state is also called as attributes or properties and behavior is called methods. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you understood object, then we'll move on towards the class. So class is nothing but a blueprint. Have you heard about blueprint? Blueprint is just what you can say like a flowchart. Flowchart is not actual program. Flowchart is just defining the steps. So similarly, class is just a blueprint or template or set of instruction to build that particular type of object. Every object is built from a class. So you have to define a class first, and then from that class you have to create objects. So class is nothing but a description of an object. Class is description of object which shares same attributes and actions. So if I define a class, say student, and I'll define the students as A, B, C. So all these students A, B, C will follow the same state and same attributes because they belong to the same class. So class is called template for object. It contains the following thing: description of actions that object can perform, that is behavior, and definition of a structure of an object, that means its variables. So let's define a class. So class is similar to an abstract data type. It is similar to a data type. Data type means like integer, character, float, and whenever you create variables A, B, C is of type integer. Similarly, when we create object, we call it, these objects are of type that particular class. Why it is called abstract data type? Because it has data and functions together. So that's why it is called abstract data type, which defines type, data structure, and the procedures that apply to it. So suppose this is the ball, and which is an object. It is also called an instance. So it has state and behavior. State is, that is how you can differentiate between two footballs or balls, size and its color and size. Behavior, what ball can do, it can bounce. And this is how we can write a class. Keyword is class, the name of your class, suppose it's a football, then you have to define variables like string, color, or integer size, and you have to define a method or a function, say bounce. So this is a class, and from class we can create one object or multiple objects. The variables that we used in a class are called instance variables, and the methods of a class are called methods or instance methods. Now these are the examples of class and its instance, that is an object. So class, definition of objects that share structure, properties, and behavior. An instance is actual object. Memory is allocated to an object, not to the class, which is created from a certain class. So when you talk about a building, you are talking about in general all type of buildings. So it's a general definition. What is a building? It should be how much story building and how many apartments are there, which type of building it is. So any type of building. And when you talk about specific building like Empire State, so when it becomes a specific, that is an object. When you talk about a dog, it can be any type of dog of any breed, of any color, right, any size. But when you talk about a specific dog instance of a dog class, so it has its own identity. When you talk about a computer, it can be a desktop, laptop, notebook, etc. But when you are talking about your own computer, so whatever the computer you have, its own specifications, etc. So class is general entity, it's just a structure, or you can say blueprint, or it is just a description of a object, and object is actual entity. So when you talk about a class student should have name, roll number, and there are the functions like set name, means assign name to that particular student, and set roll number, assign roll number to that particular student. So this is our class student. And when you talk about specific objects, for example, Gina, and roll number is R005. So these are objects of a particular class which has one name and roll number, name and roll number, name and roll number. So these are all objects, and for all objects, note that each object should have same state and behavior. State and behavior means the attributes and the methods, and they differentiate between each other, different name and roll number. Concept of class is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me one example of a class and its object other than what we discussed here? For example, tree. Tree is a class, and banyan tree is object of class tree.
Class subjects.
Yes, subject is a class, and fundamentals of programming language is an object of that subject class. Correct. Book is a class, and a particular book that you want to read, like Harry Potter or any other book. So that is an object. Now you can just go on. You can find out such examples. Class is general entity, and object is a specific entity. So object is instance of that class. Country is a class. India is an object. You can't find country anywhere. Country is just a name which describes how country should be, and India is a country. So we have seen what is an object and what is a class, right? Next is features of object-oriented programming. So now you might have confused what is abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation means. So we'll see it one by one. In general, an object-oriented language supports data abstraction, object-based. In very first slide, I have shown you different programming language paradigm. In this paradigm, there are two classes, object-based and object-oriented. So object-based means it supports only two features out of these four. These four features describes object-oriented paradigm. If it supports only encapsulation and polymorphism, encapsulation and abstraction, then it is called object-based language. Data abstraction, data is hidden from the user. Encapsulation of state with operation. And encapsulation is information hiding. And object-oriented languages also support, along with abstraction, encapsulation, it supports inheritance, polymorphism, and dynamic binding. We'll see one by one what are these features means. So concept of data abstraction. One of the recent trends in programming methodology and programming language has been specification of abstract data type. That means data type with data and functions operating on that data should come together. So that is the programmer first decide what data structure and data types are required and then specify necessary operations in terms of their inputs and outputs. And finally, represent the data structure and operation is fixed, addressing that abstract data type is implemented. Class is an example of abstract data type. So first you have to define a data and then functions operating on that data. I can give you an example of abstract data type. For example, complex number. So you can define a class complex number and operations that you can perform on a complex number, like addition of two complex number, then calculating complex conjugate, subtraction, etc. So the complex number and all the operations on that complex number together can become a class, and we can call that class as abstract data type. In theoretical point of view, abstract type is defined as a collection of data structure and the operations abstracted into simple data type. So data type means the inbuilt data types that you are using, like integer, character, float. So in this case, you can define your own data type. Like I can define a data type like complex number or student or employee or bank, and I can perform operations similar to inbuilt data types. So data abstraction is set of data objects ordinarily using one or more type definitions and set of abstract operations on those data objects. So abstract data type is set of data values together with set of operations that can act on these data values. Have you heard about stack and queue?
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, stack is, for example, it is also called LIFO, last in, first out. You can imagine like a container, and you are just adding data into that container. And when you add data, it is called push operation. And when you remove data, it is called pop operation. So you are putting data one upon other, one by one. So that is you are stacking it. And operations are push and pop. So if you write a data structure stack, and it can be an array, you can implement it with array or linked list. And then you can define these functions: push to add element into the stack and pop operation to remove element from the stack. Similarly, there is one more data structure called queue. So queue is also called FIFO, first in, first out. For example, you are standing in a queue. It can be a bank queue or bus queue, etc. You are standing in a queue. If you are first to enter the queue, then you are first to get removed from the queue. So first in, first out. So it is there are two pointers, front and back, from in queue. When to add element into a queue is called NQ, and to remove element from the queue is called DQ. So you can add element from the back end and you can remove element from the front end. So you can imagine you are standing in a queue. So if you entered first, you can leave that queue first. So it is called FIFO, first in, first out, and stack is called LEAPFO, last in, first out. Sorry, first in, last. Yes, last in, first out. And you can write a class queue with variables like if you want to implement this queue with array. So array is your data type, then front and back variables, and you need a function to implement like enqueue. To add element into the queue, you have to increment back pointer, and dequeue, when you want to remove element from a queue, you have to decrement front pointer. So you'll understand what is this in the next year data structures subject. But for now, just remember one thing: data and functions operating on data clubbed together is called abstract data type or data abstraction. So these three terms are always confusing. Many students get confused between what is abstraction, data encapsulation, and information hiding, because these three things are very, very, very close to each other and they represent the same value, same thing. Means after applying data abstraction, what you are achieving is called data encapsulation. Because what is data abstraction? Combining data and the functions operating on that data together is called data abstraction. What is data encapsulation? This what you get after abstraction, data abstraction, that complete capsule is called encapsulation, which has data and functions together, right? So output of data abstraction is data encapsulation. And what is information hiding? With data abstraction and applying data encapsulation, what you get is you are hiding that data from outside world. So it is a bit confusing. Data abstraction consists of just those properties essential to propose details that can be easily hidden. So as I said, data abstraction or abstraction means hiding details, conveying in brief. It asks you to think about what you can do to a collection of data independently, not how you do it. So how you do it is hidden, but what you can do is shown to you. For example, if I want to do sorting, so it will just show accept input, sort it and display it. So you are not interested in which sorting algorithm is used at the back end. So initially if you used double sort, then you want to change it to shell sort, so that backend algorithm can be changed without affecting your front end. Encapsulation, it is sometimes also called information hiding, is simply the idea of packing things together in a well-defined programming unit. So it is accomplished by hiding the internal state of an object and methods from external access. So it isolates an operational details of procedure from the environment where it is used. So in case of integer data type, you are working with integer variables, right? So you know what is integer data type is. So it hides the details of integer number representation. So you no need to worry whether it is how it is stored in memory. It requires 2 bytes. If it is integer variable defined in C and C++, it requires 4 bytes if you define that variable in Java. But how these values are stored, hexadecimal manner or binary manner, that no need to worry. You are just represent define variable int a comma b comma c and do your operations. So all the rest of the things are taken care by integer data type. But also effectively encapsulates the representation so that the programmer cannot manipulate individual bits of the representation of integer. So what is encapsulation? It is a process of wrapping up the data that are properties and the behavior that are methods of an object into a single unit. So you can just, this is a representation. Encapsulation is not a thing that I can show you, but it is just a what we can say, a concept. Encapsulation is a concept. When we club data and functions together as a one entity, for example, in a class, it is called encapsulation. So class is an example of encapsulation. Class encapsulates data and methods together. Encapsulation is important criteria for abstraction. When information is encapsulated in an abstraction, it means that the user of the abstraction does not need to know hidden information in order to use abstraction, and is not permitted directly to use or manipulate the hidden information. And this process of encapsulation with information hiding. Information hiding. Now, what is information hiding? It ensures the operations from outside world of encapsulated unit cannot affect the information inside the unit. So by encapsulation, you can achieve abstraction as well as data hiding or information hiding. To make your confusion little bit easy, let's differentiate between what is abstraction and encapsulation with some examples. Abstraction solves the problem in design level, and encapsulation solves the problem in implementation level. Now, these two levels are different. Girls, just understand this very carefully. When you write an algorithm, when you create a flow chart, that means you're at design level. As an engineer, you should know the importance of design. Before creating any code, before going for any project, your design should be ready. So that design level, you first decide what data should be shown and what data should be hidden. So that abstraction plays an important role when you are in design phase, design level. And encapsulation plays an important role when you are at implementation level. Now you have decided that this will be the functions, this is a data, and then you decide how to hide that data and from whom you want to hide that data. So you can write a class, you can provide access specifiers, public, private, protected, etc. And with that you can achieve encapsulation. So encapsulation solves the problem in implementation level. Abstraction is used for hiding the unwanted data and giving relevant information or relevant data. So only the requirement or whatever the user need to know. For example, if I purchase a fan, I should know how to increase its speed, how to decrease its speed. That's it. I didn't want to know how that machine works or how that motor rotates. So that should be hidden from the user. So abstraction is used to hide unwanted data and giving relevant information. What is encapsulation basically? Encapsulation means hiding the code and data as a single unit. It will encapsulate or clubs data and functions as one single unit, and it will protect it from outside world. Abstraction let you focus on what object does instead of how it does it. So we know that bicycle or how car works or how that any object works, what that object can do, but not how it does it. And what is encapsulation? It means hiding internal details and mechanics of how that object does something. So abstraction is outer layout used in terms of design. For example, you have mobile phones with you. So outer look of mobile phone. For example, display screen or keypad buttons to dial a number. So that is all abstraction. The how that number gets dialed, that is hidden from you, right? You can just click on that particular app and dial a particular number. So that is all related to abstraction. In case of encapsulation, it is inner layout used in the terms of implementation. For example, inner details of a mobile phone, how these keypad buttons and display screens are connected. So you press on keypad button and whatever you type, suppose I'm typing a message for you, so that message gets displayed on display screen. So how this keypad is linked to display screen internally. So that is and how it uses different circuits. It is hidden from the user. That is called encapsulation. Let's take one more example. What is this? So, camera. So tell me, what is abstraction and encapsulation here? These are the buttons: flash on and off, autofocus, then zoom in, zoom out. So this is all, means how it works is not necessary user should know, but these buttons are provided directly. You can operate with these buttons to do particular operation like zoom in, zoom out, or flash on, flash off, or autofocus, which is called abstraction. And internal mechanics, how it focuses, how it changes the flash, how it makes zooming operation to work, that is all encapsulated in that body of a camera. That is called encapsulation. Everything is hidden inside that plastic body of a camera. So we'll stop here. Today we have seen what is an object, what is a class, and two properties of object-oriented programming: abstraction and encapsulation. In next lecture, we'll see what is polymorphism and inheritance. Any queries about object, class, encapsulation, abstraction, or data hiding?